All right, so I'm here with Kamie Sautel, Remax Top Executives.
Yes.
Do I have that right?
You do.
Okay, cool.
It's perfect.
And
you said it just right.
We've been talking about this for a little while, and I'm super excited. Totally jumped in head first. Hopefully this stuff's even recording.
I think it is.
I think
we
it is
look
too.
fancy on the cameras there.
Yeah, I think my 20-year-old monitor is a little bit tired, but that's okay. So when I throw it in the car and I don't care if it breaks or not.
Right, exactly.
It's
all fun.
I just kind of wanted to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
And, I've had the pleasure of doing a few deals with you, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, agreed.
And, one of the main things that I wanted to touch on was, when you need to be firm or when you need to be stressed out or when. So, like, there's been times where either I kind of messed something up a little bit or it was something out of my control that I couldn't handle, or whatever, but I tried.
Yeah.
And you were pretty graceful with that.
I try.
As to where most of the time, some of the other realtors I work with, and they know that I'm trying my best,
Sure.
right?
I think in the heat of the moment, it's really easy to get involved emotionally, right? And we do get attached to our clients and our transactions.
Yeah. There's been a few times where I was just like, she was actually pretty cool about that,
Or you were like, I'm scared to call Kamie.
She could have been way more mean.
Yeah, I can be.
Yeah.
But you know what? Honestly, I think that's what makes me a good agent and you a good lender, because there's too many smoke and mirrors with people.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before. I think this is why I like working with you is I find value in being honest. I'm not going to just say something, neither are you, to get somebody's business.
Right.
We're going to just shoot.
We're
going to shoot it to you straight.
I've actually told a few of my clients that wanted certain loans really bad. He's like, yeah, we got to get this done. I go, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it. But yeah, no, and I think that that's really important. And I think that, in the business that we're in, you really have to come from a place of like where you genuinely and intrinsically want to serve, right?
Yep.
And if you do that, then of course, the money will come with it because you did a good job and everybody's happy. And kind of want to transition a little bit. So how long have you been in real estate?
Let's see, it's 2022, 2016, I got my license.
Okay.
And I was working in dental. I was in dental
Were
since
you really?
2002. Yeah, so that's a long time. Yeah, I was in dental, and I had just bought my second house. The reason I got my license, I'm honest and transparent, is I felt like things could be better, needed to be better. And I'm so much of a competitive person by nature.
No, not you.
And so I thought, I'll get my license. I can do this. And I did it. And it's been the best decision I have ever made. Hands down. I love it.
Yeah. That's so cool. So you went from like dental hygienist or like...
I was in ortho. So I started chairside, and then the last 2 years of my career, I was traveling all over the world as a consultant. So I'd gone to China. I've been all over.
Way.
Yeah. And actually...
What's it like seeing the inside of that many people's mouths?
Well, so traveling, I was training the teams on how to run businesses and scripting, and working with the dentist on how to run their practice to make money. So I wasn't in people's mouths. I was in their books, and I was in their scripting.
That's way better.
It was way better. It was really cool. I learned a lot. And actually, the last 2 years of doing that, I was working full-time there and full-time as a real estate agent. And I finally told myself, I'm so burnt out.
Yeah, I was going to say total burnout.
I was. But I've always just been a hard worker. And so when I made the transition, I'm so happy I did it. I love what I do. And anyone who knows me knows I literally eat, sleep, and breathe real estate.
Yeah. And right now, I mean, you really have to love what you do.
Yeah.
Right. And, during a time like this, it's like there's so much doom and gloom on YouTube and just all this stuff. I feel like it's so easy to get mired down in a lot of that. Mm-hmm. But it's easier for us as professionals that are in the industry to kind of look at that and go, okay, that's clickbait for, views because they're trying to get 1 million views on their video and it pays them money. Right. And, every other, video on YouTube is like Armageddon.
The world is falling.
Yeah. But it's like, hey, we've been through this like 7 different times before. So I originally got in the mortgage business the first time in like 2005.
Right, so not right before the crash.
I got to see the whole ramp up and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And what was crazy to me and I was really young then, so I didn't have the same mindset that I have now, right? When you're 20, you don't have the same mindset as you do when you're 40.
Sure.
I was some anyway.
Not even close.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I looked at it, and for me, it was definitely doom and gloom. And we've been through this so many times before. And there's so much opportunity. I feel like it's huge for investors, right? Because they're going to start getting a little bit better deals on houses, but it's also huge for people like VA buyers.
Sure.
Right. And there's a huge stigma, as you know, around VA, right? And it actually doesn't really have anything to do with the loan process other than, maybe there's some VA appraisers out there that,
You wouldn't be talking about a specific scenario, would you?
There's been a few. But it's like I always seem to get them done, even though it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Well, that's what we're here. We're here to work for our clients at the end of the day. But we also want to try to make it fun and not be the boring,
right,
straight-faced,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah. Like, there's got to be some fun, and it's a huge,
You should enjoy the American dream while you're buying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the biggest purchase of most people's life.
Yeah.
And some people never get to purchase a house. So this is huge for all of us.
And it's as exciting for us as it is for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people forget that sometimes, that we're as emotionally invested in it, or even more sometimes.
Yep.
And we want this for you so much. I mean, one, because we make friends with our clients. We know who they are long before the transaction closes.
Oh, sure. Right? And even after.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's hard when something starts going a little sideways to not be completely crushed by it just as much or more than, the people buying the house.
Right. Well, and I think that's why who you work with matters, because you and I can say we have experience in things going south fast.
Right.
And you and I working behind the scenes without involving the client. There's no reason to involve the client unless you have to.
Yeah.
And so you and I can stay up all night. You and I can just be like, oh my gosh, what can we do? And we're losing our minds, but we also are really good at turning it around and not letting the client see that, so that the process for them still is fun and exciting.
Yeah.
We're going to take the hard part on. That's our job.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and that's kind of another thing I wanted to touch on, which is, there's actually a lot of people out there that are like, well, why do I need a real estate agent?
Oh.
And for me, it's not even about like the super complicated contracts and making sure that you're legally protected and all that kind of stuff. It's about the fine minutia and the nuances of what it means to be a professional that just works with people. Right. And I have seen house deals, like, got the offer accepted. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
With $1,000 in earnest money.
Yeah. Just like the weirdest terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff, the intangibles is why, A, it matters who you work with, but B, it's important to get a real estate agent that has experience, knows how to, you know what I mean? Win.
Right. How to win. We need to be winners.
Yeah.
And you're right, because, when you know the lender that's local, or the agent you're working with amongst the teams of people, it's so important to have that relationship, because we did a deal recently that we were not the best offer.
Yeah.
We were not even close to the best offer, but we were chosen because of that relationship we already had.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And so that part of it's massive. And then the other upside, you're legally protected.
Exactly.
And things are done properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't find out that there's a $20,000 tax lien on the house accidentally, 6 months after you owned it, or whatever the case may be, right? There's all kinds
horror
of
stories.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm just sitting here cringing of some that I could share. I would talk for hours.
Yeah. So, all right. So I actually wanted to get into some of the main topics that I actually wrote down. That was us just riffing and having fun. So one of the first ones was, most people's concern right now is like, well, while house prices are coming down a little bit, I can't afford to buy a house. I just can't do it. The rates are so high, and I've been watching all this stuff on the news and, all that kind of stuff. Right. And, I think right now, especially like we were talking for like VA buyers, right? This is a great time for them. And some of the creative financing options that are out there are able to actually get them into either a temporary or a permanent buy down situation to where they can ride out the high interest rate environment. And it's just difficult because sometimes it's hard to educate them on how that process works.
Yes.
Where the money is coming from, where it's going if they end up selling or refining or anything like that. I'm definitely happy to do that, and I love to do that, and I want to do that. But I think that people need to know that the most important part about a market like this is they can get an offer accepted. And then we can figure out how to get creative with the financing to make it fit their budget, at least for the next year or two until they have the opportunity to refinance. But, you know, what's more important, you know, waiting 2 years until there's another run where there's, you know, 13 offers on a house, and now we're doing 22 ADs again on every single offer that we do. 22 AD, by the way, is an appraisal spread. Anyway.
It's just offering more money and saying that you'll cover it if it doesn't appraise.
Yeah, which I never thought I would do that.
Oh, so many. And it's interesting about the whole buy down. So I think you're right in saying that educating people on how that works because it's an option.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing now is that a lot of agents aren't familiar with it, and neither are their clients. So they're missing out on a huge opportunity that they could get their clients and be a shoe-in.
Yeah.
So educating and understanding those processes is huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think sometimes, even especially the listings that don't have a buy down listed with them, sometimes those can get a little less traction in this market, but it's also a great opportunity for your clients that do understand the buy down process to go into that and win because there's no other offers, right? Or whatever the case may be. On that note, I think this is a good transition. I wanted to kind of talk about managing expectations just a little bit, right? And some of the misconceptions.
Sure.
And I didn't want this portion to be like, you know, that feeling of like, we're so smart, we see everything that's going on, because it's not really that, right?
Right, it's not.
You've got people that have been, you know, preparing for the market where they wanted to sell, but the rehab on their house, the remodel, whatever, took a little longer than they thought, right? And they've just been in there just slaving away every night after work or whatever the case may be. And right now is when it's done. Okay? And in their mind, it's hard to keep up with Jerome Powell and the Fed, right? How fast they did things. And this market has changed quicker than any market I've ever seen. And so I think managing expectations on both sides is really important.
Yep.
And, you know, if you don't get a absolute, you know, crazy top dollar for your house, maybe it's not the end of the world because you're going to get a great deal on the house you're going to go buy.
Yes.
Right.
It's those expectations. And I think I'm glad you brought that up. I just did a social media post about that because there's a lot of misconceptions and it's easy to misread the market unless you're us, right? I know for me, I've had sellers that are in that position. They were doing all of these things and it took longer. Yeah. I get to be the one to break the bad news and say, our market's shifting. We're no longer in that price point.
But this other real estate agent said,
oh, we're going to get, this is, I literally had this conversation with a seller saying, oh, we're going to get top dollar. We're going to get top dollar for your house. We're still here. We're going to get multiple offers. But then they're telling buyers, we're going to get houses for under list price. You can't say you can't say that to two people, and that's not the truth.
Especially if you say it in the same week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention to what you're sharing with people because people perceive us. They're looking to us for advice. Yeah. We're the ones that they are going to help them through the process, navigate through the process. So we need to be giving them the right answers, and none of us are mind readers, but I think that's what I really like. I was telling you before we started recording, I talk too much, or I'm a little analytical and I just keep talking, and I try not to be that way, but it's so important that my client, whether you're buyer, seller, this year, last year, you're going to get all the details as the market is shifting if you're working with me, because that's how we're going to win.
Yeah, no. And that's a great point. Actually, so that this kind of rolls perfectly into one of the things I kind of missed, which was the pre and post pandemic markets, right? But I think we pretty much covered that with, kind of the misconceptions of, what are things worth now? What does it look like to buy? What does it look like to sell? All that kind of stuff. And I think it's important to just be 100% honest with people. But at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot of people that view their personal residence, like purchase and sales, a little bit differently than they should. If it was a situation where I had 5 or 6 houses that were like investment properties, I'd be a little bit more of a shark on when I bought and sold, I think, right? Because at that point, it's just like buying Bitcoin or something.
Yeah, you're not as attached.
Right.
You don't
But
have
the
that
house
emotional.
I live in, right? It's like if you wait too long or wait for this perfect situation, it's like you're going to be in an
miss
apartment forever.
Yeah.
And when's a great time to buy a house that you need to live in because it fits your needs in your life? Right now.
Never wait. I sold in the heat of the market, and I bought in this current market where the interest rates are.
Yeah.
You just can't have that fear.
Right.
You have to just, when the time presents for something that works for you.
Yeah, totally. And in a year, you'll refi and everything's cool.
Yeah.
And I think, but that's really up to us too, because we have to, A, be professional, and B, definitely be understanding of their feelings, because a lot of us forget that we do this every single day, right? We don't look at it from an emotional standpoint because it's not our first time and we're not as invested, and right until we really get to know our clients and we want to help them and we want them to do the right thing.
Right, because sometimes we're working 8-10 transactions at a time.
Right.
And so when we're picking up those phone calls, we're answering it like it's the first time we've spoken to someone, or it's the first time we've had this, whatever they're going through. If it's emotional, we have to go through it with them like we haven't before.
Yeah.
So that they feel our empathy.
Yeah.
And our truth.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's just unfortunate. There's a lot of well, I don't want to say a lot, but there's people in the industry that
just trying to make a buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not what I'm about. That's actually the thing I think about last. Sometimes when I get paychecks, I'm like, oh, awesome, I actually got paid. Cool.
Right. Ultimately, that's the goal, but we're here as a relationship first.
Right.
Not a transaction.
Yeah. So next thing was I wanted to talk a little bit about some data that I did some research on.
Yeah, cool.
What's crazy is that rent either kept pace or went up faster year over year than the increase in housing prices.
I believe it.
And I think that it's incredible to me how much people charge for rent now.
I know.
And
I don't know how they're affording it when you could buy for less.
Yeah. And sometimes the most difficult part is a lot of people have it in their mind that I need $100,000 in the bank if I'm going to buy a house. Well, no, you don't. There are 3% down first-time homebuyer programs. There's great real estate agents that can get some seller credits to help alleviate some of the closing costs. So there's another really good topic that I wanted to talk about.
Let's hear it.
And this is another piece of data that I was looking at. So I'm sure you can probably guess, but it may still surprise you. And I can't remember where I looked this up at. I wish I would have put the source on here, but how many homes in Washington State do you think sold with seller concessions at the beginning of the year?
Okay, I would say less than 10%.
It was 4%.
Yeah, I believe it.
How many homes do you think are selling with seller concessions right now?
90%.
So it's like 88%.
I believe it.
So you were super close there.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily a bad thing for sellers.
No, it's not, especially if they price right.
Right, exactly.
From the start, you have to price right.
Exactly. And those seller concessions are helping the buyer get into the house, and you're giving them something of value, right? And
to get them less money. Seller concession is basically the seller paying for the buyer's closing costs, so the buyer has less cash to bring at the table.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said
But
right and correct there at the same time.
I got that. But the one thing, and the whole seller concession things, I believe that it's a lot of seller concessions. But as agents and lenders, the one thing that drives me crazy when a lender I've not worked with says, oh, we can get seller concessions. That's not a guarantee, though.
Yeah, no, it's not.
We cannot promise our clients, and we should
Right.
not be promising our clients.
Right.
And we don't. That's why we work so well together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and usually if they, broach the topic with me, I try to, put that ball back in your court because that is your court. I'm like, that's not my part of the deal. But there is very possible right now for a way to work that in there.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the market that we're in. My last one is actually what we already covered right in the beginning was who you work with matters.
Oh, yeah. And we can say that till we're blue in the face.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah, no, it really is. And so I think we got a ton of stuff on that, like right in the beginning. And I actually look forward to going back and watching some of that myself.
Yeah. I'd be curious too. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, so Kamie, I just want to thank you for being patient with me while I set up all this stuff in your office.
This was cool. No, this was fun.
Yeah.
I like this.
And I appreciate you having me here and doing this with me. And again, this is the very first podcast, video podcast that I've ever done. But I enjoyed this one enough and got enough new ideas to where I really want to do this again.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited.
So you'll come back and do it again.
We're going to come back. We're here.
Awesome.
We're here for it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me and inviting me. This was great.
I'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. I'll
See
be
ya.
there. See ya. That was good.